councillors, I'll open the ordinary meeting of the 8th of June at 9:14 a.m. Thank you for your attendance. We do have a query on the minutes, so I move to deal with the minutes later in the meeting to get some clarification on the minutes.
What's the query?
There's no seconder on page 6.
Okay.
Called.
All those in favour? 8-0.
We just have leave of absence.
Yeah. Okay, we'll deal with attendances. I move a leave of absence for Councillor O'Neill for the, Councillor Edwards, for the month of June, and I think that's all. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor McMullen.
I have a question, Mr.
Please go ahead.
And just really respectfully, I'm just wondering, myself sitting here, I keep moving and agreeing to leaves of absence, but I actually don't know where Councillor Edwards is, and I'm being asked by the community where Councillor Edwards is, because he hasn't been in meetings in the chambers since September, and I don't know. And I understand that if it's personal and that's fine, but it's hard to keep agreeing with it when you actually don't know.
What I can say is that he is receiving treatment. It's obviously health issues, and he has advised that he will be back attending meetings in July.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Mayor, because as a councillor, when you ask in the community, I haven't been told, so thank you so much.
No problem. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay. Righto, so we go to the minutes.
Page 34, airports.
Page 34, 5.1, financial year 2023, fees and charges, airports. I would like to move that we maintain fees and charges from FY 2022 for Maranoa Regional Council's airports to FY 23, noting no increase in passenger head taxes or landing charges. 2, adopt a administrative fee of $150.75 inclusive of GST for processing pavement concessions. 3, continue waiving of fees for the Royal Flying Doctor Service, Live Flight and Angel Flight use of council airports.
Mr. Cole.
Please go ahead.
You said $150.75.
Correct. Yeah. I don't agree with the fee that's in the recommendation. Yeah. Okay. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition?
Can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
What was this was laid on the table till today, and there was some questions around, I can't remember what was asked. It was yourself that moved to lay it on the table till today. What information was due to come back to council for us to have more information?
We could ask.
Do you remember?
Did you have anything?
No, I've spoken to the airport manager, who unfortunately is unwell today, so not in the office, and he advised it was literally ran out of time to deal with the matter last meeting. However, I do recall that there were some questions asked around how he actually established up that administrative fee, and it was really to do with the staff time. But looking at the rate, it would be just there hourly rate as opposed to all the on-cost and overhead charges as well.
So did we move just to lay this because we got to the back end of the day? I remember you voted against it, Councillor McMullen, to lay it on the table. I just thought there was more questions asked, but I can't remember.
No, I think it was to do with, well, from my side of it, was to do with how, when we've got such a council overhead, come up with a fee of that amount.
Oh, I see, righto.
And that's why I've moved something different.
Could I just ask you a question,
Taylor?
too? So what exactly is the payment concession?
Okay, so my understanding, when we have an aircraft that's oversized for our landing on our pavement, we have to
This
give
is not to do with the domestic side, as in
No,
the
it.
rest
These
ones?
would be oversized
yes.
aircraft that would come in as charters.
I remember now, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, so through the chair, they have a maximum take-off weight,
Yes.
and so the pavement concession is when they actually go in excess of that maximum take-off weight.
For now,
Yep.
thank you.
Councillor Guthrie?
Mr Mayor, my question is, how many pavement concessions, just as a ballpark figure? Because my thinking is we've only had a handful in my term, the 2 years, maybe 4 or 5 that I'm aware of. Can I just get an indication of how many this would be possibly in a year? Are we talking 1 or 2?
Would you need to take that on notice to get the information?
I do believe the question has been asked in the past through you, Mr Mayor, and from my recollection, it is that handful because it's mainly to do with the charter flights, for example, and it's per aircraft type. So therefore, there aren't that many different types of aircraft that come in and land in Roma, so it would be in that small number of concessions.
Yeah, because through you, Mr Mayor, it's the ones that we get the emails for to give permission for them to give approval to land, etc., when they're oversized aircrafts. I was only thinking there was a handful.
Yep.
That I was remembering, but I could be wrong.
And through the chair, I think most of those concessions have been related to tourism-related activities. Certainly in my time, the concessions came through the Santos rugby event and a number of charters coming in relation to that.
Councillor O'Neill?
Some of them, though, through the chair, for charters, they've sought a concession for a period of time. So it could be, 3 or 4 months worth of those aircraft coming in, which you're right, it was only one application, but it was for an extended period. And so they were obviously coming in weekly or twice weekly or whatever it might have been.
Still
Yeah.
coming in weekly.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, so we have a move and a second. Does anyone wish to speak to? I've got a question, Councillor Hancock.
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. What do we know? Do other airports charge this, and roughly how much they may charge?
Look, through the chair, I believe that the manager of the airports did that research at the time. There are many council-owned airports that don't charge at all, and the fee that he came up with, which was just a straight cost recovery on an hourly rate.
So my second question then is actually to the Mayor. So, Mr Mayor, how did you work out the $150.75?
I think that would be reasonable compared to, thank you, what we see in relation to other fees and charges that we charge in the Maranoa, knowing that our corporate overhead is significant. And I believe that when we're agreeing to having oversized aircraft land on a runway that was not designed for it, that there should be at least a reasonable fee for that.
Yeah, which I'm not against. I'm just trying to understand how you got to the 150. Was it just you just
It
think
definitely-
you just picked that figure because it's reasonable, or you've actually?
I think it's a judgment call, and I've looked at many fees and charges that we have across our table, and I think it's reasonable for the pavement concession for oversized aircraft.
And that's every time they land.
It would be whatever happens at the moment. I think it was brought up that that was a period of time, yeah.
Through the chair, how you charge it would be on a concession request. So the pavement concessions have to be moved through the system. So the the airline owner would actually contact council around the pavement concessions. So that's how you charge. You couldn't charge every time. You would charge based on the application. And as Councillor O'Neill has said, is some applications may ask for a period of time, as in more than just an episode. So I think from a council perspective, if you include it in your fees and charges, you may just need to be aware of that.
So, but it won't be a concession request anymore if we've got a fee attached to it?
The standard wording in the industry is pavement concession. So it's not a concession, it's not a fee concession, it's a pavement concession. So it's about that maximum take-off weight, if that makes sense, is what they're actually asking for is that concession to land, take off.
Actually land and...
Yep.
Yeah, okay, sure, thank you.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
I've got another.
Please go ahead.
Just so I'm clear, if this is adopted today, the correspondence that we had been receiving from staff, which was, at the end of the day, not our right. It was nice that we were getting it, and it was what council wanted at the time because we didn't have a fee. But if there's a fee for pavement concessions, then the emails that Councillor Guthrie alluded to before, they'll cease coming to councillors. It'll just be processed by the relevant officer. Is that correct?
It's not necessarily correct in the fact that you're right, it's an operational issue,
Yep.
it's a technical issue, it should be signed off by the manager of the airports, always should have been. However, your practice has been as a council is to approve those concessions yourself, and hence there's a process. If you're going to review that process, yes, you could easily bring it back into the specialists actually making that decision and charging those fees.
I mean, at the end of the day, we don't have a documented process. The delegation has always sat with the officer. The background for it to come to council, in essence, has been for your information, whilst we emailed back and said that's okay, was to ensure that councillors were aware of the larger aircraft coming in, because ultimately that's going to decrease the life of the strip faster than what it's designed for. But the delegation always sat with the officer.
That's right. However, I've sat at this table probably at the beginning of my period of employment where council said to me, this is the way we've always done it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But now that we've got, and that's
Yeah,
because it wasn't
absolutely,
a fee.
you
Now
can
that there's a fee,
review that process.
Well, just
Sure.
the clarity on that, the things that I believe we would get told about, like in the past, the officers didn't want to give a concession and council decided that, and that was to do with probably more of a tourism event that came in, because they were concerned about the strip, but council decided that one.
that wasn't alone, Mayor, a pavement concession. That was concessions on the other fees attached to those aircraft coming in.
And to the second point I was going to say is that any tourism concessions to do with fees and stuff for a tourism event, I believe they will still come to council.
But they'll come to an ordinary meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, because it's going to be way...
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against? I've asked that. Do you wish
I
to
just
speak for?
I just can't... Mr Mayor, I believe the no disrespect to the officers, but I don't think you'd get a fee anywhere for an application at 50, like we're only getting charged $50.75, and as I said, no disrespect to the officers, but that would might cover 1 hour's work, and I don't think any of these companies would even bucket paying the $150 because they'd be paying more than $50 anywhere else for an application. You don't get any applications anywhere much now for $50.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Okay, then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Uh, 39. Page 39. Um, 10.1 APLNG Liveability Grant Round. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that council I acknowledge resolution 0M.04.2022-04, receive and note the report, allocate the 500,000 of the APLNG livability grant round over 2 financial years for 2022-23 and 2023-24, 250,000 each year, in accordance with the community investment criteria set out in the APLNG workers transition. And D, ask for the staff to bring, it would be a recommendation of their recommendation on how many what's the word? Rounds per
Frequency
year
of the
in that a year, whether it be 1 or 2.
Okay.
Depends
So
how many applications you get, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, yeah, but
You start with round 1 and then
yeah,
if
but
you've
we
got
can't.
anything.
We need to set whether we're going to do 1 or 2 rounds for the year.
Like
Split it into half. When
125.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Would you,
Do you have to do that?
or would you, Councillor McMullen, would you just see how many you get in the first round and then make a determination? You know, we may be inundated, and with wonderful projects that would expend the whole 250,000.
So when in the report they're asking for us to determine the appropriate time frame.
Sorry, in what report?
Executive summary.
It's not in your resolution.
No, really, but that's why I'm asking for. I was asking for a recommendation from the staff. What they.
Well, that's the motion. So do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ladbrook. Question, Councillor Hancock?
I'm just wondering, Councillor McMullen, if you would consider having an open, like instead of actually having 2 rounds, actually just having a open round.
But at the moment, sorry, it does, just says how many, so it's only asking, they might come back and say just 1 round.
So
Don't
what-
we set
what-
that? Like,
So if I can just finish, so what I'm suggesting is maybe just instead of even having rounds, actually having a pool of money and have it open
Yeah, right to the
until it is
side.
used.
Keep going.
Therefore, because
Gotcha.
my reasoning behind that is just thinking that
Thank you.
some people might be ready to go, but some people may not be. And so it would just give an open round where it's not just, you can apply for it now, you can apply for it then. So it's just another.
Mr Mayor, I'll change D. The council. Sorry. Yeah. The council conduct 2 rounds in the 1 financial year. Does that make 2? What I call them rounds or?
Yeah.
Sure. Council conduct
2 grant
open-
rounds.
2 grant rounds.
Yeah.
Yes. What do we?
That's 125 each, is it?
Yeah.
Per financial year, yeah. That's, or in the each financial year. No.
Okay, is the seconder happy with that change?
Yes, I am.
Righto, so that's the motion. Does the member wish to speak to the motion?
Oh, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to say it'll be, I think it'll be good, the quicker we can get it up and out there, running. I suppose probably running's not the word to say, but get the first round out as soon as we can to help help. What's the word? With our contract with APLNG.
Okay, anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm actually a bit disappointed that I am going to vote against the motion because I actually do understand why Councillor McMullen has brought it forward and in the importance of trying to get some of the APLNG agreement money out into the community with speed. I just feel that this has been rushed and that it's actually I actually feel that it's in competition with the Council and Senex grant that's already existing. And for that I'm sad because Senex has invested money into our community grants in our region and it has been, community have, the money has gone into the community and the community has been rewarded with that, and it's been quite successful. This here, to have now 4 grant rounds within the next 2 years that are in direct competition with an already community grant and Senex grant, I can't see how community groups will apply for our community and Senex grant when to apply for that, they actually have to have 50%. To apply for this up to $10,000, there's no contribution. There's no skin in the game for them. They don't have to put anything forward. So I am really concerned about the consequences and the unintentional consequences, but I'm bringing it forward today so that council do know. I am concerned about the consequences of our community grants and our combined Senex grants over the next 2 years, because I actually think that this is in direct competition, and I think it's overshadowing it with bigger money and with easier access to the money, and so therefore it's risking our already existent grants, and so that's why I'll be voting against it today.
Okay, do we have you got a question?
I just got a question, if you don't
Yeah.
mind. We haven't actually worked out what the procedure is to apply for the grant yet, though, have we?
It's in the last
What is it?
resolution.
Oh,
Point
sorry.
3.
Okay. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Ladbrook.
Yeah, I just think the APLNG grant funding, I think that's wonderful for the community, and I think more the small groups get a little help between 10 and 25,000. I think a lot of groups will be very happy with that.
Okay, does someone wish to speak against the motion?
I've got a question.
Please go
Through the
ahead.
chair to the mover, if I can, Councillor McMullen. Given that what has been raised, was that the intent? Was to have a different methodology than what we'd always have for the community grants, or has that come up unexpectedly?
What methodology is this you're referring to, councillor?
So the methodology that you've got here of applications, from the previous resolution, now that that's been thrown in for discussion, was that your intent? You wanted it to be a different way for the APLNG to what had been done with the community grants, as in there doesn't have to be as much buy-in. Was that the intent?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion?
Can I just ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Please go ahead.
So I'm just trying to get my head around what's been mentioned with the overlap maybe with the community grants. In this particular one, my belief was that it's going to be looking at the 4 priority areas under the Liveability Study, which is very, very targeted to economic developments, etc., etc. So it's very clear that there's a different focus for the grants. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's a very tight criteria from APLNG as part of the agreement that has to be adhered to. Okay, I'll speak for the motion. I'm not concerned that we need to be a cookie cutter society where everything needs to be the same. I think that there is need in the community. Generally, our community grants are oversubscribed, and we have to knock people back. So I think that with this APLNG, like smaller grants that have been provided, there's a lot of direction that has to be covered as far as complying with the livability and all of the other criteria that has been set down. I also believe that we do open it up to community groups that don't have the in-kind. They don't have the money. They may have skin in the game in other ways by delivering projects that the community can benefit from, but they don't have to have the money. I don't believe it should be community groups with the money or in-kind and ones without. You might have a community group that don't have the ability to have the money or the volunteering, but could deliver a great project for the community that complies with the APLNG agreement, livability and all the other things guidelines. So I actually believe it's good that we're doing something different. And I don't think we should have a feeling of being threatened by other grants that council deliver. I think it's actually good to be independent and different in how we do things. Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'm going to speak for it, but I'm going to speak to the resolution, not the questions that were asked, because at the end of the day, the resolution that's been put is whether we have 2 rounds in a year and a total allocation of $500,000 across that period. So I think that is more appropriate to have a couple of rounds in the year, but I think we've got to be mindful that if we're oversubscribed in the first round, that we could, like we have in the past, take some of the allocation from the next to ensure that we're not disadvantaging people that have gone to the effort of putting in applications just because we don't have enough money in that particular round. And we've done that with the community grants in the past. Look, I think we should do the first round and then have a look how it rolls out and consider whether there needs to be changes for the future rounds. I think that would be a mature thing to do, given that this is new. And so on that basis, I'm willing to support it and give it a go.
Does anyone else wish to speak against the motion or for the motion?
I'll speak for Mr Mayor. I agree with Councillor O'Neill. I was thinking that before, like, we've got to let this evolve. I think this might be the test case this year. I think it will benefit across the community. And I do take on Councillor Hancock's point that that worry there, but hopefully we can, navigate around that. I think there's room there for the 3 grant processes, and I think this is a really good one. And it's good that it's a good chunk of money that small community groups or organisations can tap into. But I think it'll evolve, and I hope this year will prove where we got to go with it. So I'm all for it.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Yeah, just a couple of things, Mr Mayor. I thought a bit disappointed in the comments that we're in competition with Senex. I thought we made it quite clear when we had discussions last time that for 2 reasons this was going to be a standalone thing, was it standalone rounds, because it's only it's not one-off, but it's a 2-year project, which could be 4 rounds in 2 years. And we didn't want it being involved with Senex or any of the other grants. At the end of the day, we'd pull them out. And secondly, a lot of these grants, I believe, will be applied for fairly soon, because there are quite a few small non-for-profit groups in town that have approached Origin, APLNG for money, and they are waiting for these grants to come out. So, I know that the other grants are there, but I'm still sure there'll be enough uptake on all the different grant rounds, whether it be this one or the Senex or any other ones to it'll probably help relieve the pressure a little bit in the next 2 years.
Okay, well, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 7-1 if I can call for a division. Okay, 10.1, 21-22 Q3 report, progress on implementing the corporate plan, operational plan to 31st of March 2022. Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that council endorse the operational plan Q3 report as at the 31st of March 2022.
I'd just like to move that this lay on the table till later in the meeting. I haven't had seen the report yet, so when I get a copy of it, then I will. Yeah, so I move that we lay it on the table till later in the meeting. All those in favour? All those against? 5-2 if I can call for 6-2 if I can call for a division. Item 11.1, tender 22021, addition to the Register of Prequalified Suppliers for trade and associated services. Do we have a mover or do we have any questions? I I just got a question on this one. Do we think that there is enough, or could we get in the report who's in the panel normally? Is there enough variety in the panel, CEO?
Look, through the chair, certainly happy to take the question on notice and circulate the current list of suppliers to councillor.
Right, well, I move that this lay on the table till later in the meeting to get that information. All those in favour?
I missed that. Is that for the full, what were you
What the
changing?
actual,
To do with these that we're adding members to the panel, what's
You want
the-
to see the full panel?
Yeah, for these panels, not all the panels. Okay, all those in favour? 8-0. Item 11.2, tender 22023 addition to the Register of Prequalified Suppliers for Vegetation Management, including ground maintenance. I'd like to move that this lay on the table till we get full detail of everyone that's on the panel for this one. All those in favour? All those against? 8-0. Item 14.1, Maranoa Liveability Strategy. I'd like to move that this lay on the table till later in the meeting, so I have an opportunity to check this, as I have not been given a copy of it.
look, through the chair,
for
what I do note is that we did have some discussion about that and we were going to bring the strategy to a briefing and unfortunately has been included in the agenda.
All right, okay.
Apologies where the council wants
Oh,
to
yeah.
consider that potentially laying it on the table to the next briefing.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to actually move that it lay on the table till we deal with it at a briefing. And then obviously it'll come back to a future meeting of council. All those in favour?
Just so we're clear though, we've had this document for 2 years,
We have, I just wanted to,
all of us. Yeah.
yeah. So what would be good is we get them connected in when we get the report. And I just wanted to check if there is, and refresh myself on it, not just the feedback.
Just to clarify, Mr Mayor, part of that briefing, will we have the Burnett Salt report as well as part of that liveability, please?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the Burnett Salt report is actually an addendum to that report. And in fairness, the report has been presented to council
Yep.
early, but we've never actually adopted it. But in view of, thank you for considering laying it on the table, because there have been a number of discussions of late, particularly there's been a request for councillors who weren't maybe present at the last briefing session to have another one and just review it, especially in view of some of the new initiatives that council's undertaking, this APLNG thing, for instance, and what implications there are for those. So it is timely to have a good hard look at it, because we may be altering the strategy slightly before we decide to adopt it.
Councillor
If I
Guthrie.
could just note too, that it was actually presented to council on the 11th of February 2020, which was actually prior to this term. We've had one briefing.
Yes.
So I think that we've just got to be making sure that all of the current councillors are really up to the flow of what's in it.
Agreed, yep.
That would be good, thanks, Manager.
So it was obviously done pre-COVID too. So
Correct.
A lot of changes since that time. Well, we're going to the vote, or we're doing it again for the vote to lay it on to the table to a future meeting for us to have a briefing on.
I think we already did it.
We did that.
Did we do the vote?
Yeah, we did. I asked
Righto.
a question afterwards.
I was just double checking. Righto. 14.2. Applications through Regional Arts Development Fund, RADF, Program Round 2, 2021-22. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 endorse the RADF Committee's grant assessment recommendations for applications received under Round 2 2021-22 from GL02 885.2250 2, approve the recommended strategic projects for 2022-23. 3, approve the committee's recommendation of providing RADF grants as a continuing open grant for 2022 to 23, allowing community groups to apply for RADF grants all year round and review this in 2023-24 year. 4, approve the recommendations to change the RADF application process.
Okay, we have a second, Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hancock.
Mr Mayor, once again, I'd just like to thank the community and community groups for getting on board and popping in a application. We've got some great successful events that are going to happen around the region, and it's really important to see the arts and cultural projects that are being developed and going forward around the region. I wholeheartedly agree with the committee's recommendation of leaving the grant round open, because quite often there is some really great opportunities within the arts and culture section that come up and it doesn't quite fit into the grant rounding. And so by having that open at all times, it actually will be able to make use of those opportunities that may come up off the bat. And so I just think this is a fantastic opportunity for our arts and culture community, and I'd like to thank the committee for their time.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? Councillor Taylor.
I also would like to just say, this is, didn't think it was my thing, but I'm quite enjoying it, which is great. And I'd also just like to acknowledge Tennille for the job she's done. She's done a marvellous job and helped us get through the whole thing. So thank you very much. Really well done. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the member wish to sum up?
No, thanks.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. 14.3, Hibernian Hall amendments to the user agreements. I'd like to move.
I have a conflict.
Oh, okay. Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to declare a conflict on 14.3, Hibernian Hall amendments to the user agreement.
Yep, sure.
The declaring council is myself, Wendy Taylor. The person of interest is Jodie Noon. Dance West 03 is a family friend. Particulars of interest, Jodie's mentioned in the report as she leases the building. It's a declarable conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, Councillor Taylor's left the room. I'd like to move that Council 1, approve the request for What's On Gymnastics Fun and Fitness to terminate their user agreement for the Hibernian Hall. 2, approve the request from Dance West 03 to extend the access hours of the Hibernian Hall. A, confirm the new access hours for the Hibernian Hall will be Wednesday 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m, Thursday 3:45 p.m. to 7:45 p.m, Friday 3:30 p.m. to 7 p.m, Saturday 8 a.m. to 8 p.m, and B, amend clause 9 of the current user agreement to reflect changes. And just CEO, if I can also, I'd like some wording about, I want to add in there so these basic changes don't come back to council.
Okay.
Did you mean 9.2?
Sort of.
Sorry, did I say it wrong?
You said 9.
Okay. B, amend clause 9.2 of the current user agreement to reflect changes.
Yes, so through the chair, if you're talking about approval of change of hours of requests and things like that, you could actually say authorise the CEO or delegate to approve all future applications for change of hours for tenants.
Okay, well, I'll put that as the point 3.
I'll just give that to him.
And point 4, right to what's on gymnastics, fun and fitness, and congratulate them on their
New venture.
new venture, and wish them well for their new future, and congratulate them on providing gymnastic services or gymnastic opportunities for the Maranoa. Providing gymnastic opportunities for the Maranoa. Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? I'll speak to it. I think this is a win-win. We've got two great organisations which provide, valuable cultural and sports activities in the Maranoa, and it looks like they're all growing, which is excellent. And I'd like to congratulate the ladies involved and all of the volunteers and the parents and everyone that's involved in the two organisations. And I think this is a win-win. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0.
Much better.
It's so dark in here.
You got to hit the on a couple of times and it goes.
14.4, request for sponsorship Queensland Young Auctioneers Competition. Councillor Hancock,
I'd like to declare a conflict.
please go ahead.
I'd like to declare a conflict on item 14.4, a description request for sponsorship, Queensland Young Auctioneers Competition, declaring councillor as Councillor Joanne Hancock. Person with interest or related parties is GL and JM Hancock, which is myself and my husband. GL, JM, PR and KM Hancock, which is myself, husband, brother-in-law and sister-in-law. The above entities sell cattle at the Roma sale yards. It's a declarable conflict of interest. And although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Okay. Do we have anyone that wants to move something? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Hancock participates and votes on agenda item 14.4 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to declare that we have received legal advice with regards to the sale yards many times, and the clarification that I am using is that the matter at hand does not pose a conflict of interest for myself. I just would like to have it noted that it's the matter at hand, the request for sponsorship is not a conflict for myself due to, I believe, the legal advice we've received.
Yeah, I too would say the same. I believe the matter at hand is not something that I believe I would have a conflict on.
Well, then you don't say anything.
No.
If you don't have a conflict, what are you declaring?
Oh, yeah, I think you're allowed to make a statement, aren't you?
If you've got a conflict.
Well, it might have been that in past times, councillors might have declared so.
But not from what Emma said earlier. No one's declared on this.
but anyway, I think you're allowed to make a statement. We're happy to get advice on that if we are or not.
Look, through the chair, if the councillor wants their statement minuted as to why they're not declaring a conflict and they're wanting, I guess, steps in that process, we should record that in the minutes.
If they have declared in the past.
No, we should record that in the minutes. The council has asked us to record it in the minutes, and they've made it quite clear as to why they want it recorded in the minutes. So yes, we should record it in the minutes. Which is, just to confirm to the chamber, is that the statement that wants that the council is asking to be noted is that Councillor Guthrie has said, due to the matter at hand, that she has considered it is not a conflict and she is not declaring a conflict of interest accordingly.
Madam CEO, for myself, if you could just include that for myself,
Sorry.
that's my personal opinion.
Okay, so do we have a mover? Councillor Ladbrook.
I'd like to move that council provide in principle support for the sponsorship, the 2022 Queensland Young Auctioneer Competition. Approve $4,000 in sponsorship of the 2022 Queensland Young Auctioneer Competition for the community donations and assistance, GL 28872249 as part of the 2022-23 budget, and endorse the use of the Roma Sale Yards logo as part of the event co-branding.
Just got a question. Councillor McMullen seconds it. To the CEO, should it not be, because it's obviously promoting the sale yards, should it not be something that would be covered in the operations of the sale yards, or is there no ability to do that at the moment? Just for the future, maybe.
Just through the chair, you do have a community grants and sponsorship policy setting, hence that's why the officers have presented the report in the way that they have. Council does have the option to actually look at an ongoing assistance item as part of the budget process and accordingly adjust the way you've done that going forward.
Because to me, this is a business promotion for the Roma sale yards, rather than just a donation of council, even though it is still council, but that's why I believe it's there, is because we're the biggest sale yards in Australia and so forth. But
Look, through the chair, what you might be asking for is a review of your current policy, and certainly we could bring that policy back to a briefing and councillors could have a look at that.
yeah, it was just, to me, it would be a bit more targeted to who's paying for it. But okay, we have a mover and a seconder. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Does anyone against the motion? Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor McMullen?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I think this is the second year, and I think it was from what I understand, very successful last year, and it's already been discussion, but I think this is going to be an ongoing function in the Maranoa at the Roma Sale Yards.
Yeah, I'll speak to the motion. As far as I understand, it was here because of COVID and the ECA didn't happen. And now this is the second year that ALPA, the Australian Auctioneers Association, actually want to do it at Australian Livestock and Property Agents Association actually want to do it here. So I agree with the comments that have been made. It was very successful. Great promotion for our sale yards, the biggest sale yards in Australia. So it's fitting that they have the Queensland Young Auctioneers competition at our biggest sale yard. So I believe how we can work together works for the benefit of the beef industry. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, we're going to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. $14.5, Wall of Fame inductee for consideration, Jessica Scott. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that council include Jessica Scott on the Wall of Fame for her contribution to rowing, representing Australia under a recognised national sporting organisation.
we have a seconder, councillor Hancock. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Burke?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I think it's great that we recognise our sporting accomplishments, and I think congratulations to Jessica, and I think it's great that she's put on the wall there with all the other sporting heroes, I suppose. The community makes young people strive to be the best they can, and if this helps in any way, that'll be great, but it's a good reward for her.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Page 120.
Thank you. Page 120. 14.6, Maranoa Kindergarten lease to the Creche and Kindergarten Association Limited.
Mayor, I'm going to move a conflict here, if I can.
Please go ahead.
Sorry, Em, I haven't submitted it to the CEO. I've just, it's dawned on me that I should do this. Emma, would you have the template from the conflict from earlier? That might be handy to.
Mine. PCI or DCI?
Item.
14.4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
You just. The item is 14.6, the Maranoa Kindergarten lease to the Croatian Kindergarten Association Limited. The person with the interest is my daughter. The particulars of the interest are that Georgie is on a waiting list for when she turns an appropriate age to go to C&K. I believe it's a declarable conflict of interest. And although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting of whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Okay, do we have anyone that wants to move something?
Oh, I can do that.
Councillor Taylor?
I'll just wait till it stops moving.
Trying to make us all ill.
I'd like to move that it is in the public interest that councillor, who have I got? O'Neill, sorry, participates and votes on agenda item 14.6 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Okay, we have a second, councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Okay, moving on. Do we have a mover?
No, I've got a question.
You got a
if I can.
question? Please go ahead.
Manager Tanya, is this a not-for-profit organisation?
I believe C&K are, Mr Mayor, through you, Mr Mayor, I believe they are a not-for-profit organisation.
Yeah, it just doesn't say anywhere that. I presume they would be, but it's just a
But with
question.
that information, we could bring it back for sure and provide that information.
No, that's okay. It's just more a question. That's all right.
And I think there is also a community group as well that works with the provider as well. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I would have to confirm that, how their structure's set up at the
But I
kindergarten.
think there's community parents and that involved in there as well. So even though C&K are a larger organisation, I think. Okay, Councillor Hancock,
I'm happy to move, Mr Mayor.
please go ahead.
I move that Council 1 approve the Croatian Kindergarten Association Limited, C&K, to continue to occupy the premises described as Lot 13 on R8613, 53 Arthur Street, Roma, on a month-by-month basis in accordance with clause 15.8 in their management lease. 2, call for tenders to lease the property for the purpose of operating a kindergarten.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? Councillor Hancock, do you wish?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, I'll speak to it. I think I've been hearing very positive, good things as far as the kindergarten. Yeah, it's a great asset to the community when it's very hard to get. There's a shortage of so many services for children and that. So I think in this space they do a great job. So I'll certainly be supporting their month-to-month basis whilst we go out to tender. Okay, if no one else wishes to speak, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. 17.1, Parents' Room in Roma. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that a council report be prepared about potential locations in the Roma CBD that could be used to accommodate a parents' retreat space.
We have a second, Councillor Ladbroke. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Just a question.
Please go ahead.
Just more of a question. Years ago, I was actually taken into a parent space just down from the bakery there on the left-hand side. I'm just wondering if that is still available, be something to look at. It was beautifully done up. It was open to any parents just to go in there, and exactly what this is saying. So I'm just wondering, I just wanted really more information to be given.
What, in Arthur Street? Arthur Street or
I think you might be
McDowell?
talking about CWA Hall or something there.
Yeah, it was just down one of the, and it was all set up. Is that still happening? I don't think it was the CWA hall. It was a bit further back.
Yeah,
Mr
Councillor
Mayor, if I
Guthrie.
could speak to this, I don't have the answers. When this particular lady spoke to me, and she said to me, and we're talking livability here, and I'm sure nobody here disagrees, and I really said, look, I don't know where a person coming from the outlying centres who come to Roma for the day, drop a car in for servicing, who might have one or more children, where you can actually go if you wanted to then care for them, warm a bottle, bring a portable cot that they can sit and sleep for an hour or something. I said, I really am limited. And I said, I'm very aware that when I was a young mother and I came in from India and I belonged to the Maranoa Club, I would go there. There was a facility that you could access, change nappies if a child was unwell. And I scratched my head and I said to this particular lady, well, maybe you could go out and started naming buildings and or locations. And she said, yeah, but how would I get there if I've dropped the car in for a service? So this agenda item was just raised as is there, and like Councillor Hancock is saying, is there somewhere in town that is open, that is reasonably usable? Because I did say, well, you can go to the Woolworths and change a nappy there, but she said, well, you're not going to put a baby down to sleep there in the public toilets. And I went, no, that's right. So I was really scratching my head and going, well, if we're talking about livability, there may be somewhere that I'm not aware of, or there may be the potential for somewhere that could be considered. So this is really leaving it open to the organisation to say, well, are we aware of, is there potential?
Just got a question on that. When you say CBD, are you talking about the tight CBD or are you looking at the
I'm just
bigger?
talking wider, because when I was making suggestions like the big rig, which is a little bit further afield, it was like, well, how do I get there if the car's in for a service? So it was really within walking space of the council chambers here, I suppose, or
CBD.
the shopping or the commercial part of Roma.
Well, would you like to clarify that and put something in about walking space in there?
Okay,
So
I'm happy to say, be prepared about potential locations within walking distance of the centre of Roma. And I'll leave the CBD actually out as the wording, because that might pose a conflict. It's more about something that's available within the ability to push a pram or to carry a child to be able to access services.
does the seconder, Councillor Ladbroke?
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, happy with that. Okay,
I've just got a question.
please go ahead.
I just wondered, through the chair, whether you put in there the library at different times, the back of the library has been used as a parents' retreat. You couldn't have, well, you could have a cot there, but people would be going past. But there's a little kitchenette there that has been used by parents in the past, and there's changing facilities and whatever there. But I just wonder, there obviously Eva's Place is has found or is finding a permanent location. I don't know whether that's been announced. I'm not about to do that in a public meeting of council, but maybe that would be one avenue for the staff to talk with that particular group. And I understand that will be in walking distance of the area in which you're talking about.
And if I can just respond to that, my intention here is not to put the responsibility on the council to provide it. It's more about seeking knowledge of what is actually available within, or the potential of what is available. And if there are organisations or groups or locations that are currently there, or the willingness of different organisations to provide the opportunity, that there is that's just a no-brainer. That would be wonderful. This is more just about seeking the information to share publicly, so that those who travel in then can say, oh, well, I can go there.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Very good. Righto. So does anyone else wish to speak? Righto, we're going to go to the vote then. All those in favour? 8-0.
These figures just blow my mind. These figures just
Insurance remotely, have you paid your own local?
L1, payment to Queensland Local Government Mutual, managed by Jardine Lloyd Thompson, Pty Ltd, annual liability insurance payment. I'd like to move that Council, 1, authorise payment to Queensland Local Government Mutual, LGM, liability totalling $379,350.68. I'll say that again, $379,356.68, including GST, being payment for LGM liability membership contribution 2022-23, which is $410,764.57 less the annual surplus distribution of $31,407.89. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to raise purchase orders within expenditure assigned to 2022-23 budget allocation for liability insurance. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to complete future payments invoiced by Queensland Local Government Mutual in accordance with budget approvals. And 4, investigate opportunities where strategically valuable to look at our list of insurance cover where it may not be commercially viable to keep insuring assets.
Can you repeat that, please?
Sure. 4 would be to have I'll do it a different way, have a strategic look at opportunities where it is not commercially viable to insure low value assets in light of increasing insurance premiums.
I'm just going a bit fast, Mr Mayor, for the
Mr.
record
Mayor.
taker.
Yeah. Opportunities where it is not commercially viable to insure low value assets where council could cover the risk. Did you have any comments on that?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, just like to clarify that this is council's public liability
Oh, yeah,
insurance.
it's
It's not
for the other
asset
one.
insurance is
Yeah.
another account, so this
Yeah,
is a
right,
public
so it'll probably be
liability.
for the other motion. Right, well, I'm happy to take that out of that one, and we'll put it in when we do the other one. Is there any opportunities that we could look at, even in the liability, us taking any more risk in any way?
to be honest, with our public liability insurance, our risk is insured, so we look at all of our operations, whether it's, anything from selling effluent to making a road. Our insurer insures all them risks associated with the business. If we were to exclude one of them risk profiles, it could be very messy, and it probably open us up to a bit of issue. There is also a place in the local government regulation that says we need public liability insurance. So it doesn't specify that we can not insure certain aspects of our business, of a day-to-day business. So I don't think that would be beneficial at all.
No, that's fine. Do we have a seconder for the motion?
Mr Mayor, I wasn't, did you drop 4 out, did you?
Yeah, I did, for
Okay.
this one. It'll be for the other one. We have 2 payments. Now, councillor Taylor?
Not
Want a
today.
seconder first, or do you want a question?
Uh,
Question.
yeah, no, I'm happy for you to ask
Point
the
number
question.
3, where it says to complete future payments invoiced by, what do you mean by that?
Well, that's,
Then they won't come to the table?
no, because they're in accordance with budget approvals, so that's basically pretty operational, I would say. Like, we'll approve it in the budget, so much for public liability.
Oh, you're just talking about public liability?
Yeah, for this one here, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Second.
Righto, got a second, councillor O'Neill. Does anyone wish to speak to it? Yeah, so I certainly support this, even though there's fairly solid increase in it this year. But if you know anything about insurance, there's very solid increases. In fact, I think compared to some, this is relatively reasonable in the context of major increases. I do believe it's the way to go, that we should be in a mutual. And even though we've had some pretty big disasters in Queensland, it still seems to hold up. So I think there is strength in numbers with this. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Thank you. So you've got page 23. Just in relation to just Danny, I was just waiting for some engineering advice so she could do the conditions. If mind just letting me work out whether she's got them. If you wouldn't mind laying that on the table just to confirm that we've got all the advice.
Item L2, material change of use, dwelling house, domestic outbuilding, reference 2021/20487. I move that this lay on the table till later in the meeting to receive some advice. All those in favour? 8-0.
Thank you. This is the New Bond Street.
Mr Mayor, what advice are we seeking?
Look, through the chair, the manager of planning is actually just waiting for some engineering advice, just in relation to the shed itself, so that you, depending on what council's decision would or could be, is that she would have enough advice to share with council, should they want to consider conditions or anything like that.
Just on the shed, not the water flow, or?
I'd certainly take that on notice, councillor. It may well be to be with broader stormwater drainage as well.
Okay, item L3, proposed sale of New Bond Street, Roma. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move this lay on the table because I believe there's a report coming to council that's not quite finished as yet.
Okay, all those in favour?
But it's lay on the table the next meeting, sorry.
Sorry, what report?
Till next meeting.
Eh?
What reports come into council?
There's a report on a proposal for this. staff are doing.
Costings and all that stuff.
Officers' report, sorry, I should say. Officers' report.
Oh, that's the information that was asked at last meeting is coming back in a formal report to council, is it?
Correct.
I can hand this map out,
Yes.
Madam CEO. I'll just
Yeah.
hand this map around later.
Sure, through the chair. Certainly there is a minute in your minutes that you haven't endorsed yet, that talks about the matter, or it's it's associated with the matter about council staff bringing back a report around the strategic use of the site. We're about a week away from that. We'll certainly be able to get that to the
I
next
just didn't
meeting.
realise it was a formal report that was asked for, but obviously that's what.
I would expect, as I moved it, I would expect that we would, if we've asked for all departments to comment on it, I do believe we should get it back as a report to council, and then we can consider the other one and this one. Okay, so we're going to the vote. All those in favour?
Where's the?
Table's going to be
That's
very
right,
heavy
thanks.
soon. Hey? Table's getting heavy.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, the meeting's
Yep.
going quick, but the table's getting heavy, yeah.
And through the chair, I have circulated the supplier information in relation to those earlier reports. We do have the quarter 3 results here, and I certainly can share additional copies with that, or make sure everyone's got a copy, should you wish to discuss that further during the agenda.
Should we adjourn then and read those things and then?
Through the chair, it's about morning tea time, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
that's what I'm saying.
Is it there? Is
We
anything?
have an appointment at 11,
Beg pardon?
do we?
Oh, we do too.
We actually have a deputation at 11 o'clock.
being
Right.
squeezed in.
So we should adjourn.
Yeah.
Okay, we will adjourn.
Confidential?
Page 4, we'll do the minutes. There's been clarity on that. Okay, we'll keep going. So we can do page 4, the minutes. There's clarity that it was a procedural motion. Hence it didn't need a second. Do we have anyone to move on the minutes?
Mr. Mel, I'll move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 25th of May 2022 be confirmed.
We have a seconder, councillor Burkett. Any opposition, anyone wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
And it's now item 10.2, which is page 43.
Okay, 10.2, page 43. The QC3 report. Councillor Taylor, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm up on to customer service on 5.7.
Page 2.
It's not page 2,
It's nearly at the end.
yeah. 5.7, customer service.
Yes?
There are challenges as a result of the organisational structure. That's all pretty sad, that whole thing there, isn't it?
Page
Can I find out how we're
5.7?
addressing that exactly?
5.7, customer service, yeah.
What page
Oh,
is
there's
it?
more than,
Well, it's page 1 on
okay.
5.7.
Yeah.
Well, we actually have a operating local framework. So we have, since April and May, we've actually not only adopted a framework measurements in relation to that. Part of that project, part of that process is a new customer service ethos around addressing all of that, including, including a project between ICT, customer service, the management, around addressing the customer service issues. The customer service officers encountering, that's not my job. I mean, literally, I think there was issues around some parts of the business that were lacking in clarity in relation to say for argument's sake, the biggest areas of tension were, and the management is working on a couple of projects to sort this out, is facilities where the asset owners, which was the regional area of facilities, were saying it's not my job anymore to do this or do that. Yet the local area directors were charged with the running of those facilities and the delivery of the maintenance, and in facilities as well as the original design of facilities was the asset manager. They used to run the projects that came out of out of the facilities as well, and they used to manage most of the maintenance activities. We now certainly have 3 different parts of the business doing that same role. You've got the regional manager of facilities running the asset management side of it, like the plan. You've got the local area directors managing the operational and maintenance planning on a yearly basis, and then you've also got the deputy director of strategic roads running bespoke special projects that might be in relation to those facilities. And what has been happening is there's a lot of duplication and crossover and a lack of clarity around who's doing what in that time, certainly in the last 6 months. And we have got those areas of the business working together on what we call a RACI, which is a responsibility and accountability methodology to sort out who is actually doing what and to reduce those conflicts. So we, from a management perspective, what we do in our management meetings is we work through a hot issues process. We select a number of those hot issues each meeting, and then we set up little committees that are working on those hot issues to resolve those issues. So yes, nothing's necessarily perfect, but we are working on those kind of things. From a customer service perspective, is the council committed to a change in its customer service delivery last year, which effectively took a centralised model and decentralised it. I don't know whether that's a direction issue when it's really a council strategy issue. Is it going well? I think customer service still needs work, and as a management group we are working on that. Even from a councillor's perspective, we've got feedback from you in relation to what would work better for you in relation to customer services, how when people approach you. We also have been working on the closing the loop and how our systems actually tell people we've done the help there and do that properly. And we still have to improve that overall customer service journey so that we know that the customer is being satisfied. And again, work is happening in the back end to make sure that we can have an electronic survey that's automatically going out to every single customer so that we can measure, are people satisfied, but also give them the opportunity to provide feedback as well as random stuff. So yes, does work need to be done in customer service? Yes, it does. Are there parts of the business that certainly need refinement? Yes, there is. But as an executive and senior management group, we are working on those things.
Councillor Burkett.
Yeah, I think there could be a lot of positives, and that depends on each area, because I can only speak for in Mitchell, but they're very positive about the restructure and the change, and with part of that customer service. Before that, as regards to people not manning it, someone had to drive out from Roma to do a day shift or a half day. So I think hopefully part of the
Councillor Burkett, we just need to keep to questions and then we'll have the debate and so forth.
Not a debate, just that there's all negatives there. There's got to be some positives
Well,
thrown in.
it's just surprised me that there were so many negatives in it.
Well,
I
that's
was
what I'm
just
saying.
asking
They're only
about it.
showing half the story there.
Well, that's not my fault.
But anyway, any other questions? Because all of those things can be dealt with in the debate. Councillor Hancock and then Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, Madam CEO, the challenges that are printed in this document, that's actually come by, like how did that get here? What was the process involved?
Look, a manager's responsible for putting those comments there. Who actually wrote those comments, I'm not sure. But yeah, exactly. But yeah, but that certainly sits in we certainly have a management responsibility in relation to that, and the challenges in relation to that are coming from that area. But again, it's acknowledging that not everything is perfect. Whilst it may seem negative, they're saying these are our challenges, and as a management group, we're working through a methodology to say is to work through what we call hot issues. Is to say let's not hide from the hot issues. Let's actually identify what they are and actually set up groups within the organisation to resolve things, so that we're not working in silos. We're actually working together to help each other actually resolve some things. And there is stuff that does need to be worked out.
Yeah, so
Can I just say, the hot issues and that whole strategy is a Pete Stebbins, which is part of running meetings and evaluating. No, my intention was just to say, could I move this one, please?
Oh, yeah. So any other questions before we move it? Councillor Hancock?
Just noting, with the Homestar Department,
Sure.
I'm talking about, just a healthy organisation, how it's going, with 70 odd vacancies across council. How are we managing to support, obviously there's other people who are doing, whenever there's a vacancy and we're recruiting, there's other people who are taking on that role. How are we going? How is our staff going with being able to manage the workload that council's setting for them? And
Look, vacancy management, what we call workforce management, is again another hot issue within the organisation for different reasons for different areas of the business. In the main, the majority of the council staff can do their work with one or two people down. There are some areas of the business, though, that actually struggle more than others if they've had longer term vacancies. When we're looking at our workforce management issues at the moment, what we are currently doing is reviewing the recruitment journey, just actually itemising those areas, working out why do we have each step? What's the risk associated with each step? What's the legal reason we might have that step, and what's the cost of that? Because what we absolutely know right now from a recruitment perspective is the market has changed. It's a very when it comes to council vacancy rates, we're sitting with all of our regional partners being within 13 to 15%. So it's not a new thing in local government. We're all experiencing this problem. We need to have options for recruitment. Some of those might be short-term options. Some of those might be labour term options. Some of those might be permanent workers, because there are parts of our business that face more risk with vacancies than others. For example, if you're in a direct delivery perspective and you might have a crew that's one short delivering, you've got to have the whole crew to deliver the work. Whereas in some area, if it's customer service or record keeping or whatever, you can actually absorb the difference for periods of time. And also too, from an organisational perspective, we need our managers to be realistic and say, if we need to save money, we need to be serious about whether we need to keep duplicating positions like for like, and going through a business case process whereby we actually analyse whether we need that position or not. But we need to work right across the spectrum of the problem, because it is slightly different in different areas of the business. And whilst you have 72 vacancies, you've been carrying 40 to 50 of those vacancies for years, 25 of them for well in excess of 3 years. So it's really trying to understand, what does our business need, why does it need it, and how do we go about delivering human services or human resources into the organisation with increased flexibility.
Okay, any other questions? We have a mover, Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that Council endorse the operational plan Q3 report as at the 31st of March 2022.
We have a seconder, Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, just can I say there's a lot of information to digest, to read and to digest, so thank you very much for providing it to us.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against it? Does anyone wish to speak for it? I'll speak for it. I'm very impressed with this document. I'm very impressed with the highlights and the challenges. I think it's an extremely honest document, and if you don't know your challenges, you cannot improve them, you cannot fix them. So I was very glad to see so many challenges pop up as well as highlights. And I believe with once our team of directors get in place with less responsibilities than previous directors, they can support our staff right down to the bottom of the organisation on the coalface, and I believe those challenges, whilst they might change in the future, I believe that we will see less of them because the support will be there where it has never been in the past. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
What was the
Okay.
Next one's page 46.
46?
Which one was that one?
That was,
Seven
sorry,
one, page
10.10, and the
Haven't got
next
that
two are,
information yet, so we'll leave that on the table.
okay,
we had.
11.1, 11.2.
Oh, tithe, haven't got it.
Okay, so we're moving on. I've got,
Is there any, sorry, is there any more laid on the table that we can deal with? Just, that's the only one left.
there's two.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so I would like to move a councillor notice of motion in regards to the in-June Telstra Tower. And yeah, I'd like to move that is put on the agenda for to be dealt with. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition, anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. We can put them all on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, you can sequentially do them all if not, yes.
Okay, I would like to move a notice of motion to move that it be included on the agenda for request for extension on due date for rate assessment 1502014 2. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. So this is to do with looking for an extension.
Yeah, I just thought you were going to read the whole lot out.
No, we've got two separate ones here.
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, we're going to get copies of this, or we just?
Yeah. Correct.
Can I ask?
Through the chair.
This relates to the email yesterday, which is LC 10,
10,
is it,
yeah.
and 11.
Yep, proposed, yep.
Why
Oh,
are
so
there
did you?
motions when it's just forms part of the late agenda?
Through the chair, they're actually not part of the agenda yet. So hence we just used a formatting to actually thump out what the proposed motion was so that we could circulate something to councillors to understand what was going to be moved without notice. So ignore the formatting. It's really just about this is the item, this is what it's called, this is what the recommendation will be, and this is a bit of the background as to why.
So just if I can, Mayor, that's inconsistent how we've approached this in the past. Like I get the Telstra one, that seems to have come from yourself, Mayor, but in relation to LC10, the author of that was the Lead Rates and Utilities Billing Officer. Historically, we've just received those as late agendas.
Yep.
And there was no need to move to put them on the agenda because they ended up being late agenda. In terms of notice of motion, the one we've just passed, that's clearly a notice of motion because there's no report. But the ones that have already been drafted by staff, they have never been moved as a notice of motion.
An item without notice.
We got notice because we got issued the late agendas yesterday.
Well, my interpretation is that once that late agenda was published, these items don't sit on the agenda. They are up to council to allow them to get onto the agenda, and they only came to our attention late yesterday. So what we were doing was just circulating the wording ahead of time. They're not technically a late item. They are actually just giving you a heads up that there's a couple of reports coming up that have no notice.
Yeah. But they could have, as they have in the past, just been added to the late agenda.
We could have had a late agenda. Yes, we could have. Through the chair. Yeah, absolutely.
Emma wanted to talk there, didn't you, Emma?
I was just going to say that the mayor requested the rates one, and Debbie just done up a report, so you knew. But otherwise, there would be no report.
Yeah,
It'd
no,
just
that's
be the
good.
mayor's
No,
speaking.
no, we're just clarifying. Yeah, we could have done this late. Senator,
And
thanks.
I think it's good not to have a late agenda, so I think it's very important. I think it's just good to see if council would put them on the agenda. So I'm going to move the request for an extension on due date for rate assessment 150201442 be included in the for discussion or on the agenda. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. And then the second one.
Edwina, were we including were we just going to do the two rates ones together for the confidential agenda?
Just through the chair,
Doing it separately.
we're doing them separately simply so that they all get on to the agenda first and then we'll go through them. Thanks, Emma.
Okay, so this is more of the same, so I think council have seen it. Request for an extension of payment for the due date for rate assessments 150201167, 150199961, 150200183, 150049997, 150200019, 150200274, 150200175, 150200324, 150200308, 150200209, 1509995, 1301016, 150209191, 150201159, 150019987, and 13007265. So I move that they be put on the agenda. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay. Do we have anything before we go in?
Mr Mayor, those two, we'll get some paperwork for those. Yeah, that's right, thanks.
I'll be enclosed too.
Mr Mayor, I've got a conflict of interest in regards to one of those.
Right,
I've already
please go
advised.
ahead.
So,
I'd like to advise of a declaration of interest for the late agenda items.
just supplies.
LC,
11 was the second one.
the second one was 11, please. Which is request for extension on payment due date for rate assessments 150200167, 150199961, 150200183, 150049997, 150200019, 150200274, 150200175, 150200324, 150200308, 150200209, 150199995, and 1301061. The declaring councillor is myself. The related party is Guthrie Pastoral Group, which includes my husband, Ross Guthrie, my son, Nick Guthrie, and myself. The particulars of the interest is that Halico Proprietary Limited and HJ and RB Dingle are mentioned as also being affected in this instance with extension for due date for rate assessments. And both Jamie Dingle and his son Harrison and their respective spouses are immediate landholders, neighbours of the Guthrie Pastoral Group landholdings. This would constitute a prescribed COI, and the action that I will take is to leave the room whilst the matter is discussed and voted on.
Righto. Okay, so that's done. Is there any other conflicts in the closed items?
I don't think so.
Okay, and if we don't have any more conflicts, have we added the extra items in the conflict table, in the closed table? Do we have anyone that wishes to move into close or make a statement as well? Councillor Hancock.
I move that in accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, the council resolves to close the meeting to the public at 12:30 6:20 PM to discuss confidential items that its councillors consider necessary to close the meeting. In accordance with section 254J5 of Government Regulation 2012, the following table provides the matters to be discussed and an overview of what is to be discussed while the meeting is closed. Agenda items C1, 36 Edinburgh Street, Mitchell, external painting condition. LC1, application rates, payment arrangement assessment 14026,439. LC2, application rates, payment arrangement assessment 14024,897. LC3, application rates, payment arrangement assessment 14507,735.
It does look good, doesn't it?
LC4, application rates, payment arrangement assessment 12003547. LC5, application rates, payment arrangement assessment 14003,875. LC6, request from Cultural Heritage Engineering Preservation Society. LC7, tender 220115, Strat Swimming Pool Management Agreement. LC8, Santos GLNG Service Level Agreement, SLA6. LC9, Australian Government's Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program Phase 3 Extension. LC10, request for extension on due date for rate assessment 15020,142. LC11, request for extension on due date for rate assessment 15020,167, 150199161, 15020,183, 15004,997, 15020,019, 15020,274, 15020,175, 15020,324, 15020,308, 15020,209, 150199995, and 1301061.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
And Peter's got it. Actually, but we put 3 on the end.
Oh, there was one just in the lane. Did you?
Yeah, that's right, they need to be closed, I don't think.
Oh, right.
And the
yeah,
Telstra,
okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Telstra, yep, great.
Okay, we have a seconder, councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Okay, 8-0, we're in play. So what would you like to do? Do we adjourn or do we just keep going with this one?
Look, through the chair, if councillors want to debate and ask questions, there's no reason why you can't open the motion, open the item and start the discussion.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if there's anything to be shown on the screen, that's not going to be seen by the public anyway. is it?
No, that's right.
We've got that on our.
Okay, so we're still in the council meeting.
Certainly are, certainly are.
So which one was that, L2?
L2.
L2,
Page
material
23.
change of use, dwelling house, domestic building. We'll just adjourn so I can get this, so we'll.
What are we up to,
keep
Jeffrey?
going with the meeting.
L2.
Which one are we on now, Garner?
Page
46.
46.
Page 46,
Just in the
tender
order.
22021, addition to the Register of Prequalified Suppliers of Trade and Associated Services. Councillor Burke.
I'd like to move that 1, council approve the addition of the following suppliers to the Register of Pre-Qualified Suppliers for Trade and Associated Services, established in accordance with S232 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, under the following sub-panels. Sub-panel Pest Control and Termite Management, Bat Marleby, Proprietary Limited trading as Spikes Pest Control others excluding weeds and feral animals, Fatamarleby, Proprietary Limited trading as Spikes Pest Control and then Plumbing, JR and TW, Proprietary Limited trading as Stanford Plumbing and Gas, Plumbing Gas, JR and TW, Proprietary Limited trading as Stanford Plumbing and Gas. 2, pre-qualification for the mentioned businesses remain current until the end of 31st of June 2023. And 3, council authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter into a deed of agreement with the selected tenderers, formalising the terms and conditions detailed in the draft agreement.
Okay, we have a second, councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Nope.
We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Item 11.2, tender 220115, 023, addition of the Register of Prequalified Suppliers to Vegetation Management, including ground maintenance. We have a mover, councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council approve the addition of new suppliers to the Register of Prequalified Suppliers of Vegetation Management Services, including grounds maintenance, being in accordance with with S232 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, with the following business registered under the requested sub-panels: QMDCL, Queensland Murray Darling Catchment Limited, sub-panels, urban allotments, urban public space major facilities, rural roadside slashing, rural herbicide spraying, minor vegetation, other vegetation management services. 2, approve that the pre-qualification of the business on the register remain current until the end of 30 March 2024. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to enter into a deed of agreement with the selected tenderers, formalising the terms and conditions detailed in the draft agreement.
We have a seconder. Councillor Guthrie, any opposition, any wish to speak? We'll go to debate. All those in favour, 8-0.
Through the
Oh, no,
chair,
you tell us
you
the
do have,
Has everyone got the
in June,
Telstra one?
in Telstra Tower.
Okay, in June Telstra Tower, I'd like to move that Council 1 in principally support progress an investigation of the potential for a new Telstra Tower for in June. 2, that a further report tabled at a future council meeting with options available to in June, including feedback from residents that have raised the issue with council. Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook, any opposition?
Just a question.
Please go ahead.
Just in relation to the feedback, is there a reason that it just been narrowed to the people that have taken the initiative to raise it with council? I assume that there are other members of the Injune community that may also have frustrations around the lack of, mobile coverage, that their commentary and their views will be valuable to council.
Why I'm saying that is because what triggered this was a letter to council. I believe the people involved are very knowledgeable with what happens in Injune, and this is a very preliminary action. I did have a phone call to the Telstra people about the situation in Injune, and I believe speaking to the people that have raised it would be good from a preliminary situation. When we go into actually working out options, then I would believe we would have like what we did in Surrey and have an actual community meeting and so forth. So this is just very preliminary to get it rolling.
So is that just in essence sharing the letter that was sent to you with the other councillors?
No, what I'm saying is, as part of the report, the letter, and I think it was sent to all of us actually, it may not have been, I'm happy to be corrected on that.
Does anyone else recall the letter?
I can't remember.
Yeah, no, going back 2 or 3 months ago. And I'm happy to share the letter, of course, but basically, Telstra is going to do some investigation as well as, but their feedback on the knowledge of that area means we're going to get a report back, no decisions are made, and that would help with the preliminary stuff. So that's why I'm moving what I'm moving. Okay, so we have a mover, and do we have a seconder?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I'll speak to it. This is driven by correspondence from community member about the issues in Injune. I do believe that there's also some solutions. I had a phone hookup with Telstra, and they're looking at some options that then they can come back to council. So I believe asking for this report and getting the feedback from one of the local residents, it won't be the only feedback, there will be obviously, but I think you've got to start somewhere, and we're better off to get on with it. And then we can broaden out as we did in Surat to the whole of community once we actually even have some things possibly on the table to talk about. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, moving on.
I'll just get that correspondence shared for you.
Where are we going to now, Mr Mayor? Back to the...
Might go to closed.
C1.
You don't want to get Danielle's out of the way while she's
Is Danielle, oh yeah, okay. Well, we'll just adjourn so I can get that info.
Are we going?
ask her. Oh, no, you can't.
No, you're going to go and do that one, Mr Mayor, or?
Do L2, yeah.
No, that's not going to get...
Item L2, material change of use, dwelling house, domestic outbuilding, reference 2021/20487. I would like to move that that the applicant for application for material change of use, dwelling house, domestic outbuilding on land situated on 103 Corfe Road, Roma, Queensland 4455, properly described as Lot 1 on SP 146153, be approved subject to the list of development conditions and general advice.
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
And do we need to put the numbers down? Danielle, do you think, or manager, Danielle, do you think we should put?
Mr Mayor, I don't think it's necessary because we say subject to the listed conditions and general advice, so I think it's covered there.
And there's a 2.
And there's a 2 on the back,
Except,
Yes,
right on the back page.
Mr Mayor, the only thing is those list of conditions and general advice are actually in the report. This information that we've got here in our hand is actually not in the public report.
Yep. So through the chair, I think the councillor is correct. Mr Mayor, when you move that alternative resolution is just articulate development conditions 1 to 14, 15, 21 to 29 with general advice A to L, and it's up to councillors as to whether you want an option 2 or not. At the very last
Apologies,
page.
Mr Mayor.
Right, would you be able to help
Sure.
get that?
Yeah,
on
I
the
certainly
screen,
can.
please?
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't normally that's part, we do that, yeah.
Is point 2, would that be done as a separate resolution?
It's optional separate resolution.
So Danielle, do you go and inspect and...
We'll just break for a minute while we get some wording sorted. Okay, so the councillors, councillor Burkett, are you happy to second that motion? And I could say that it's points 1 to right through
29.
29 included.
And general
And
advice.
general
And
advice,
general advice,
A,
A to
L,
L.
L.
JKL.
So this is included in that 1 to 29?
That's just,
That's
that's
not,
fine.
that's not what we've got
That's
up there.
fine.
She hasn't got it up
This
there.
is all that needs to
She's
be in
got
the
them all, but
resolution.
she hasn't got
You
what
don't
the
need
mayor
the
just said.
diagram.
Enough.
You just got a list.
You just,
Just development conditions 1 to 29,
Yeah.
because it's not on the webs,
yeah.
apparently. And then general advice A till L.
L.
That's it.
Oh, you had, yeah, all over it.
Righto, so the second is happy with that?
Yep.
I'll speak to the motion. I certainly believe this is, it's obviously an interesting one, but we generally are getting people that, you know, for whatever reason, need to have larger buildings or sheds. That's just been a general progression that councils over time have been dealing with. However, in this case, I think it's a very large block, and I do believe that the general amenity will be improved by the owners doing what they're planning to do. I'll be supporting this because I think it is the right development for the area, and I'll wish them well in, you know, people of the Maranoa continuing their dreams of home ownership and also having pride in where they live. So to me, it's certainly something that will benefit living in the Maranoa. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak against or for? Councillor Burke?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I go along with everything you said. I'd also just like to congratulate Danielle, Manager Danielle, for all her work and accommodating all the little scenarios and questions that we put forward. I do think it's going to be a massive improvement on what's there, and I'm sure the Pollocks will do everything they can to rectify the slope of the land and get the stormwater out to the conditions that will be placed on them. And I think once the house, it'll be a credit to them, I think, moving forward.
Through the chair, I just, sorry to do this to you. You've got your recommendation in front of you and you've got all your conditions. It's just that because you're not actually following the officer's recommendation and you're flipping the decision just in relation to capturing what you've said, Mr Mayor, if you go right to the very top is when you've got that the application for MCU blah, 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 and general advice A to L, because you're saying approve, that be approved, as it is, if you could just add these words, because I'm just quoting general advice A to L. Yeah. As it is a very large block, and the general amenity will be improved by the development, and that it is the right development for the area. I'm just quoting exactly what you said, Mr Mayor. We could have used the other reasons.
And is that in lieu of a statement of reason?
Yes,
Not
that
doing
is
a separate statement of reason, we're doing that?
in your resolution. You need to indicate if you approve or reject a planning application that's in contradiction to the recommendation or the planning scheme. Is that you just articulate why you're doing it? Just a short statement around why you're doing that for correctness.
Can you just finish that
And will be improved. Will be improved, and that it is the right development for the area. At least that's quoting. That's consistent with what the tape will show.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'm going to speak for it, and I'm happy to support this today on the basis that the applicants, to date have been very accommodating with some of the reservations that we spoke to them about, particularly around stormwater, and I'm confident that an appropriate plan, as is one of the conditions in here, will come to council for approval, and that will help to mitigate some of the longer term water issues that have been in and around this particular property and the properties around it. And so I think this is an illustration that people in our community can work with council and come up with a solution that obviously will benefit the individuals who own the land, but will also not impede negatively on the properties around in relation to getting water out onto on the road. So I'm more than happy to support this today.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? And I'll just sum up. Yeah, I agree with what has been said here today, I do also believe that if we did not support this, hopefully we may not get some of the benefits that may benefit the people that live in the area. So certainly we'll be supporting this motion today. So on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Mr Mayor, I've got another resolution to move.
Please go ahead.
I'm happy to move that council propose to amend the Maranoa planning scheme to change the zoning of Lot 1 on SP 146153 from general residential to rural residential.
We have a seconder, Councillor Hancock. Any opposition? Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. I think when people look at this block in relation to where it is, in my view, and this is why I'm moving it, it more fits in a rural a residential zone rather than a residential. And I think given that we've just unanimously approved a larger shed onto this particular land, it is the right step now to look at amending the planning scheme to change it from general residential to rural residential.
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I just wondered what would be the cost, probably to Danielle, what would roughly be the cost to change it to rural residential, just that one block?
Through you, Mr Mayor, there's probably not too many costs involved with a planning scheme amendment like that. We would manage it in-house. Possibly the only costs I could think of would be associated with public notification. That's a part of the process, so it would probably be limited to that.
Okay. Councillor Burkett.
Does that change anything with their water connection sewerage? Like, because the block's already on sewerage, so that doesn't change? Like, that rates all stay the same?
Through you, Mr Mayor, if they do have existing connections, we did actually check that. We've had a conversation with them about potentially the zoning, if the zoning were to change. They weren't opposed to that, and they understand that they've got existing connections and they'll be maintained regardless of what the zone is.
Okay, well, Councillor Guthrie.
I voted in favour of, I did have reservations with regard to the inland water flow. All of my reservations have actually been addressed through the hard work and the seeking of engineers' designs and the changes to the conditions. I don't, however, agree with changing an existing general residential block to a rural residential after the effect. I mean, this is not dependent on the previous agenda item that we've all unanimously agreed to. I think that there's no benefit to doing that because we've been able to justify allowing the shed to be built, etc., for the reasons that were given. To me, this is just an additional, not needed step, and it opens a gateway to people appealing valuations, etc., down the track. Manager Danielle, in previous discussions, has said that the possibility then exists for somebody to appeal based on the fact that the planning scheme has been changed, etc. I don't think we need to go that far. I think we've had a successful outcome as in approval of the shed, and I think it just needs to stay at that. I'm not in favour of then retrospectively going back and saying, okay, we've now approved the shed, now change the planning scheme to make it rural residential just because it seems like it would be a neat way to finish it off.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? I'll speak against the motion. I've heard both sides of the argument. I think it's better to leave it as a status quo. I don't think that there's that much served by changing it, and I think council have other priorities than focusing on that in this matter. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish? Oh, Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, I'm going to speak for the motion, Mr Mayor, because we have had lots of discussion, lots of information regarding this. I actually think that this is the right thing to do. As we went and looked at the block initially to make the decision, whether we thought that the block was the right size to put that size shed on it. We stood on the block and realised that it was probably more of a rural residential block. So I think that this is the correct thing to do, to make sure that it is actually zoned in the right zoning. So therefore, the development of the building, yes, I admit we have already agreed to that prior to this resolution, but I actually think that this is actually the right thing to do, to give the opportunity to actually put that parcel of land into the correct zoning.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Thanks very much. I think the sequence here is appropriate because had this resolution been moved first to amend the Maranoa planning scheme, the decision that we just made to approve the shed would have been delayed. And the applicant had made it very clear in terms of timeframes in which they were attempting to meet in building their shed. So I think it is appropriate that we dealt with that matter first. I disagree entirely that we shouldn't be, wrapping this up and making it neat at the end of the day. Blind Freddie can see that this block, based on the blocks further to the west of it, should fit more neatly into rural residential rather than general residential with the smaller blocks that neighbour it. And I think this is an appropriate course of action, largely given that we have approved a much larger shed than we normally would on a residential block.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 3-5 if I call for a division.
I think it was Councillor Hancock that seconded it.
Yes, it was.
That's all right, just saves me.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, moving on to
C1.
C1.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks,
Good
Danielle.
afternoon.
C1.
C1 is on page 2.
C1, 36 Edinburgh Street, Mitchell, external painting condition. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that Council 1, accept the painting contractor's offered refund of original fees paid by Council. 2, issue an invoice to the painting contractor for the amount of $4,950 including GST. And 3, be presented as part of the 2022-23 budget deliberations an estimate for fully sand and paint the council-owned residence, the subject of this report.
We have a second of Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Oh, that's it, actually. Page 2.
A little blue flag.
I'm going to.
Little blue one after tonight.
I think I need it.
LC1, application rates payment arrangement assessment number 140264439. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council accept the applicant's payment arrangement, subject to all rates, charges and arrears accumulated, being paid in full by 30 June 2023.
We have a second of Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going.
If I can, through the chair to the mover, were you going to include a point B, which is to write to them?
Oh, yes. Yeah, sorry, Mr Mayor.
Righto.
We need some wording. Advise the, to point 2, council write to the applicant advising him of the further
Of the conditions.
To the options that council has in relation to
Next steps,
Did you mention policy or not?
right to the applicant advising of councils.
Through the chair, does this help, that right to the applicant, to include information about the status of their arrears and the debt recovery process
Mhm,
That
that'd be
council
best.
could take.
Yeah.
that council could
Yep,
take?
that'd be good.
Right to the, yeah.
It's without
Did
saying.
you get that?
Yeah, I'll get that. I'll just,
Emma didn't get
Emma's wasn't.
Poor old Em. Poor old Em. Well,
I think she's keeping up very well today. She's keeping up very well today.
That'll be fine. Dot point two, right to the applicant, including information about the status of their arrears and the debt recovery process that council could take.
Okay, is the seconder happy with that?
Fine, thank you.
Righto, so that's what we're actually dealing with. No one wanted to speak to the motion. We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Yeah, copy that, Emma.
Yeah.
Under the next one, Emma.
LC 2. Application rates payment arrangement assessment number 14024897. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move that Council 1 accept the applicant's payment arrangement subject to all rates, charges and arrears accumulated being paid in full by the 30th of June 2023, and 2, write to the applicant including information about the status of their arrears and the debt recovery process that council could take.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. LC 3, application rate payment arrangement assessment number 1450775. Councillor Ladbrook.
I'd like to move that council decline the applicant's payment arrangement as proposed. And number 2, advise the ratepayer that a minimum payment of, did we say 500, the same
Yes.
amount?
well,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep, okay, so 547.06.
524.
He's got a different one.
You're on page 10.
No, I'm on 14. Sorry.
Page 10.
Sorry,
This
I'll
one.
start again.
Yeah.
Council decline the applicant's payment arrangement as proposed and advised the ratepayer of a minimum payment of $524.21 per fortnight will be required to ensure that all rates, charges and arrears accumulated and paid in the full
Are
by
paid.
arrears accumulated are paid in
Yeah.
full.
Yeah, you just missed a word.
Phil, by the 30th of June 2023. And number 3, advise the ratepayer that they have 21 days to respond to council regarding this alternative payment arrangement, yes, that's him. And number 4, will continue with rate debt recovery should the rate fail to respond or make the required proposal payments to reduce the outstanding debt. And
We had to do that? Yeah.
the other bit there, advise the ratepayer
No,
that
on the previous one.
You want a 0.5, which is
which
Yeah.
is
Point
number
five,
2
yeah.
from the other ones.
Right to the applicant, yeah, including, yep.
so in 5, write to the applicant including information about the status of their arrears and that the debt recovery process that council could take.
Okay, we have a seconder, councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
LC4, page 14.
LC4, application rates payment arrangement assessment number 12003547. Councillor O'Neill.
I move that Council 1 decline the applicant's payment arrangement as proposed. 2, advise the ratepayer that a minimum payment of $547.06 per fortnight will be required to ensure that all rates, charges and arrears accumulated are paid in full by the 30th of June 2023. 3, advise the ratepayer that they have 21 days to respond to Council regarding this alternative payment arrangement. 4, will continue with rate debt recovery should the ratepayer fail to respond or make the required proposed payments to reduce the outstanding debt. And 5, write to the applicant including information about the status of their arrears and the debt recovery process the Council could take.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? I'll speak in opposition. Does the Mayor wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Without going into the finer details, this is giving a clear message to the applicant that a certain amount needs to be paid to see all of their rates off the books by the 30th of June 2023. I think it sends a much clearer message to the broader community that Council takes it incredibly seriously that people must pay their rates, but it shows compassion that we're working with the individual to come up with a payment arrangement. And number 3 of the resolution gives them an opportunity to come back to Council if they wish to propose an alternative payment arrangement.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? I'll speak against the motion. I don't believe it shows compassion. I believe that that when people are having a go, you should give them a go. And I won't be supporting this motion because I believe there's other ways to be able to give them a go when they're having a go. Okay, does someone wish to speak for the motion? Against the motion? Does the Mayor wish to sum up?
I do not.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 7-1 if I'm called for division. Item LC5, application rates payment arrangement assessment number 14003875. I'd like to move that Council approve the applicant's payment arrangement as proposed. 2, advise the ratepayer that a minimum, we won't need 2. 3, advise, I don't need that either. 4, will continue with rate debt recovery should the ratepayer fail to make the required proposed payments to reduce the outstanding debt. And do we have a seconder for that motion? Okay, then that motion is lost. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 decline the applicant's payment arrangement as proposed. 2, advise the ratepayer that a minimum payment of $114.09 per fortnight will be required to ensure that all rates, charges and arrears accumulated are paid in full by 30 June 2023. 3, advise the ratepayer that they have 21 days to respond to Council regarding this alternative pay arrangement. 4, Council will continue with debt recovery should the ratepayer fail to respond or make the required proposed payments to reduce the outstanding debt. And 5 is write to the applicant including information about the status of their arrears and the debt recovery process that council could take.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? I'll speak in opposition. Does the mayor wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mr Mayor, right, thanks.
Okay, I'll speak against the motion. I certainly believe when there's a history that someone is having a go and consistently doing that for quite some time, I don't believe it is compassionate in any way or actually good business sense not to go with what was proposed. It just means that it will take a bit longer to be finalised. And I do believe we should also be there to educate and advise on the journey to get them to look at, once that's done, how they cover it in the future. And I think we should have some innovative programs as far as how people can pay their rates. But when someone in this case is having a go, I will be voting in favour of, not in favour of the motion, because I don't believe council is giving them a go. Okay.
Mr Mayor, before we go any further, did I make an error there, Emma, or was that
No, I didn't have it.
$114.09? That's what I just,
9 cents?
yes,
Yeah, correct.
thank you. I just want to make sure I didn't make a blue.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour, all those against, 7-1 if I call for division. LC6, request from Cultural Heritage Injune Preservation Society, Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that Council 1 approve Cultural Heritage Injune Preservation Society's request to transfer funds from GL 22938.2800.2001 Museum Display Injune Heritage Museum. 2. Request an invoice to be sent to Council for $18,000 before the 30th of June 2022. 3. Request that Cultural Heritage Injune Preservation Society provide drafts of the concept designs for approval of Council. And 4. Request receipts be provided to Council as evidence that the funding has been used for the concept designs.
I've got a question for Councillor Guthrie. Do you really think that council needs to approve Chips's drafts of concept designs for approval of council?
I have full faith in the fact that they will be getting designs that will be conducive to the actual museum getting built and that will be appropriate. But I think the fact that I did hear the comment made, this is not normally the process we follow, and we're trying to then aid Chips in being able to source this being done, even in an incremental way. I'm happy to leave that there because I feel that that's just one more step that says that we're supporting them and can have input into what they're trying to achieve.
Okay, so do we have a seconder for the motion? Councillor McMullen,
Question.
please go ahead.
I too am a little bit concerned about point 3, because it is about the designs for what's going in the museum. So I'm just sort of wondering what concept designs actually, that would be, is that what storyboards are going up? Like, I'm just worried about that level of detail. I do think that number 4 actually gives us what we're after, where it says provide the evidence, the funding, receipts, prove that this money was spent where we said it was going to be spent. I'm just concerned that we may hold up their project by us having to actually approve their designs. And I also think that unless they're going to come here and speak to their designs, it's a bit hard for us to sit at this table and to make a decision whether we think their designs are okay when we actually haven't been in the development of the designs. So I'm a bit concerned about that as well.
I'm happy to also respond and say that the quotation we've received, which is attached to this, is actually for a larger amount of money. And what they're going to be seeking to do is to actually take and do part of that particular quote. So it may be sensible to do that, because then if there's a difference in what they are going to spend, which is the $18,000, and the actual quote it may be that then in our wisdom that we could then look at providing additional funding should, once the budget's done or something like that. I just think that keeps us involved as well.
So to the mover, would you consider at all in there, in point 3, that it doesn't hold up the project? Like some way that if they're giving it to us, it's not causing an issue, you know, because obviously it's a community group doing something.
I'm happy to put that in there. I'm actually of the opinion that we would not deliberately try to hold any project up, and we would try to be as timely as possible. And the moment that we receive them, it's just a matter of then sharing and then bring it back to the council. So I'm not sure that it will actually be holding anything up, but I'm happy to put that in there if that enables it to be very, very upfront and centre. That's what we're doing, is to speed the process.
Councillor
Even
Ladbrook?
you know, approval by council, but even if we had a briefing, you know, we don't have to pass it through council, but just have a briefing of what's happening.
Councillor McMullen?
Mr
And then,
Mayor,
you know-
I would imagine once this is approved, chips will, it won't take them long. I reckon they'll have their designs well before the building's up, like the building's a long way off.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's,
Whatever.
So it's up to the mover.
I'm happy to leave it as it stands.
Righto. Councillor Taylor, did you want to say?
No, I just asked her a question.
Righto, okay, so does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, I just think it's very, very exciting to see the CHIPS, the museum actually coming to fruition. And I am very, very mindful that at least the building will be built in the near future. And also thinking that there will be other things that I know that they will be in their wish list looking to achieve. So this is just another step towards something that would be fantastic for the Injune and the wider surrounds.
Okay, so does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. L7, tender 22015, Surat Swimming Pool Management Agreement. Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 reject all offers submitted for tender 22015, Surat Swimming Pool Management Agreement, as all offers were outside the budget scope. 2, authorise its Chief Executive Officer or delegate to negotiate with the highest scoring tenderer a management fee that is within budget scope. 3, if agreement is not reached by 30th of July 2022, recall the Surat Swimming Pool Management Agreement tender. 4, continue to engage the existing swimming pool management contractor on a month-to-month basis pursuant to Section 4B of the current Surat Swimming Pool Interim Management Agreement.
We have a seconder. Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. LC8, Santos GLNG, Service Level Agreement, SLA6. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that Council 1, pursuant to Section 236 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Road Infrastructure Agreement with Santos GLNG, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign Service Level Agreement 6 for the next development tranche, being ST22 West of the GLNG project. 2, complete the necessary budget amendments within the 2021-22 Capital Works program to reflect the contributions to the road upgrades required by Santos GLNG.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
And it is page 62.
Thank you. Page 62. LC9, Australian Government Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program Phase 3 Extension. Councilman McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council, one, receive and note the details of the Australian Government's Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program Phase 3 Extension Allocation. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to execute the grant agreement for the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program Phase 3 Extension when received. 3, endorse a workshop briefing to be held to identify possible projects to be considered for this program following the release of the guidelines.
We have a second of Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
What's that, the rates one, is it?
Yeah, the right one.
Two.
So
We starting with 0 or 0?
It's L.
LC 10.
Which one's LC10, the individual one?
You've got that?
Yeah, LC 10, request for an extension on due date for rate assessment number 150201142. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that council resolve pursuant to section 121B, Local Government Regulation 2012, grant the landowner a concession by way of agreeing to defer until 30th of June 2022 payment of the current rates and charges for the property shown on assessment 150201142.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. LC 11, request for extension on due date of rate assessments.
Mr Mayor, I've already declared a conflict of interest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just wait till council's left the room. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council resolve pursuant to section 121B, Local Government Regulation 2012, grant the landowner a concession by way of agreeing to defer until the 30th of June 2022 payment of the current rates and charges for the property shown on assessments as listed.
That's cunning.
Well, unless you want me to read them out.
Well, I think, whether let people see them?
Is this one on the?
It'll have, this report will have to go online.
This, yeah. It just been closed before.
Excellent,
Oh,
Cameron.
well,
It's a closed session, that's all.
I'll read it I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Assessments 150200167, 150199961, 150201831, 150049997, 150200019, 150200274, 150200175, 150200324, 150200308, 150202009, 150199995, 13010616, 150201191, 150201159, 150199987 and 13007265.
Okay, so do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
I just, I'm going to put a 2. And council note that we will be undertaking a briefing in the month of June
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
on this matter in relation to these assessments.
Alright, so
So
we've
can't do
got a
that,
move and a
council.
second is happy with that change.
council
Does anyone wish to
resolve,
speak to the
council
motion?
note. Yeah, right.
We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? That's 6-7-0.
And you'll just tidy up the council.
Okay, is there any further business, councillors? Okay, I'll close the meeting at 3:40 PM and thank you for your